Have to be a parent to be a part of the Los Angeles Independent Black Parent Association. This is something that we're starting to organize black parents in Los Angeles, our own schools for our children, okay? The goal is not to force middle-class white women to properly educate black children. They can't. They are melanin deficient. They can't do that. So we can ask them to do something that they're not psychogenetically, biologically predisposed to do. Was that a word? But anyway, we're going to organize the Parents Association. 7 committees, y'all. 7 committees. What are the 7 committees? Number 1, we got the Special Education Committee. If you sign up for the Special Education Committee, your job is going to do what? Investigate the schools in LA to see what the special education culture is. For example, what school in Los Angeles has the highest amount of black boys serving time in special education? What school in Los Angeles has the highest amount of black girls serving time for special education? What school has the highest percentage of African American children misdiagnosed as mentally retarded? What school has the most first graders serving time for so-called ADHD? What school got most third graders serving time for emotional disturbance? So forth and so on. The first stage of every committee is to do what? Investigate, data collection. We gotta have the information. Once we have the information, each committee will come up with a plan of action. So the Special Ed Committee will have a plan of action. The School Discipline Committee will have a plan of action. The Policy Committee, a plan of action. Some of you have had children who were exploited in the miseducation machine. Some of you had children who were misdiagnosed and put in special ed. And you found out later that the only thing wrong with your child is that they never been taught in the first place. So special ed might be something personal to you. And if it is, you might want to sign up for the Special Education Committee. The next committee is what? School discipline. Why is this such a big issue? 2 weeks ago, the United States Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, published a report on the state of public ed in America with a specific focus on what was being done to African American children in the school. This was the first time in 13 years that the Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, did a study on the complete United States of America. They looked at public education across the country. First time in 13 years. And what did they find? The same stuff that I already told you in my book. That black boys are suspended and expelled from school at 4 times the rate of white boys for the exact same offenses. What else did they tell us? They told us that in schools that serve a predominantly African American student population, inner city Los Angeles, they said the average inner city school teaching black high school children do not offer a math class above Algebra 1. So, if half the schools in America serving a predominantly black high school student population do not offer a class above algebra, my question to you, if most states require 4 credits of math to get a high school diploma and your district doesn't have a class above Algebra 1, how in the hell can you get a high school diploma? You can't. So I'm bringing this up because some of you sitting here, and I'm hoping I can convince you otherwise by the time we're done here tonight, some of you still think that the problem is not the school system. Some of you still think that our children are to blame for the miseducation machine. And I want you to understand that the children are never to blame. It is always the system. It might be the society. It might be the parents. But it is never the children. So if you sign up for the Discipline Committee, you're signing up to do what? Investigate unfair discipline practices in Los Angeles schools. For example, how many black boys were expelled from Los Angeles schools this school year that's about to end? How many girls were suspended on average per day? What was the average number of days a child was suspended for? And do we know if the offense for which they were suspended was even a legally suspendable offense? Why am I bringing that up? Because in working with parents and attorneys, brothers and sisters, guess what we're finding out? A lot of your children are being suspended for offenses that should have only earned them an after-school detention. A lot of your children are being expelled from school, expelled, prevented from ever learning again for offenses that should have only earned them a suspension. This is why if you are a parent of an African child, you need to make sure you have a copy of the school district's code of conduct. You also need to have a copy of the school district's parent handbook. Why? Because whenever your child is suspended or referred for expulsion, first thing you should do is what? Go to the handbook to see if the reason for which my child is being suspended or referred for expulsion is listed in the handbook. Because if it is not listed, if it is not a part of district policy, it is illegal to suspend for those reasons. We got to get educated. And remember what I always tell you. A lazy black parent is no parent at all. You are raising America's most vulnerable children. You are raising the children who are most likely to be discriminated against. You are raising black boys who are most likely to be special educated. Black girls most likely to be medicated. You cannot afford to take a break from your job. You cannot afford to take a break from your job. Remember, these disabilities that they give our children cannot be proven to exist. You cannot prove a learning disability. You cannot prove ADHD. You cannot prove conduct disorder. You cannot prove mild mental retardation. So some of you are going to sign up for the discipline committee. What's the third committee, black family? The third committee is school finance. If you sign up for school finance, you're going to do what? Investigate the spending practices of the principals in the public and charter schools in Los Angeles. We're not going to let the charter schools off the hook, because your tax money keeps them open too. Charter schools by law are public schools. They are alternative public schools. They still operate off your paycheck. But guess what? A lot of the money in Los Angeles schools isn't going to the children. A lot of the money in Los Angeles schools is going to people who don't look like you, don't live in your neighborhood, but pimp your children in the name of contracts and grants. Let me ask you a question. Who has the contract with the public schools in LA to clean the bathrooms? Who got the contract to bring in the paper and the pencils? Who has the contract to drive the kids back and forth in the morning? Who got the contract to put in all the cameras in the hall, security cameras? Do you know the security camera contract is about $3 million? How many people in here, by show of hands, know how to install security cameras? Several of us. Who in here know how to clean? Should be every damn body. If not, we got a problem. Come on now. Okay. But my point being what? A lot of the contracted work doesn't require a college degree. Most of the contracted work, you can do it with a GED. So why do we have so few black people in LA with the cleaning contract? If you had the contract to clean LA public schools for 1 year, do you know how many unemployed brothers and sisters you could put to work for 1 year? So we got to find out what percentage of the contracts is going to white folk, going to Mexican folk, going to Latinos, Arabs, East Indians, everybody else but black people. And part of that is our fault, because many of us in this audience have been hoodwinked and handcuffed into a "I'm for all minorities" type of a mindset. You don't just believe in fighting for black people, you gotta fight for all people. And you're the only people in LA fighting for everybody but your damn self. The Mexican is fighting for the Mexican. The Arab is fighting for the Arab. The East Indian is fighting for the East Indian. When the last time you got invited by the Chinese American Association to come to a meeting? They don't look for you. Ain't nobody interested in black people, but black people want to be interested in everybody else. You got to grow up from that. That's a paradigm that we need to shift from as we move into the second half of the 21st century. You must be unapologetically African. When you fight for your own group. If you want to look out for others, you can do that after we get our situation in order. But you ain't got no time to be wasting in nobody else's struggle while we catching hell. I evaluate white children. I evaluate Latino children, most of whom African anyway, but hiding from it. I evaluate East Indians. I work with Arab parents. If a parent calls me, I don't care what color the child is, I'm going to help them. But I'm not going to take away from my struggle for mines and give any of that time to anybody else. See, one thing we're going to talk about tonight is the Civil Rights Bill, which will be turning 50 years on July 2nd, 2014. Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act into law July 2nd, 1964. 50 years ago. And now we're celebrating 50 years of civil rights. What else are we celebrating in 2014? This is a landmark year, brothers and sisters. Not only is it 50 years of civil rights, it's 60 years of school desegregation. That's right. May 17th, 1954, the United States Supreme Court said you couldn't use race in education. So on May 17th, 2014, we'll be celebrating 60 years of that. I'll be keynoting an event in Boston for the Black Teachers League on that. And what else are we celebrating this year? 100 years of Garvey and Garveyism. 1914, Marcus Garvey organized the largest mass movement in modern history for African people.